So welcome back to another video, and today we will be doing something different. I will be doing a sort of a swatch video of 3 indie palettes that I have gotten into my collection recently. So as you can probably see, we are doing something new today for my channel. So I had the coincidence that I actually had 3 of my sort of newest eyeshadow palettes coming into my collection pretty much close to each other. So I thought that it would be fun to do a swatch video of these. So as you can probably see, we're having the Ensley Rain called Moon palette. Then we're having probably the surprise if any of you have seen that I am not exactly a fan of horror themes, but I got this in the same order as I got the Ensley Rain palette. So this is the Glamlite and Chucky collaboration palette, and I bought this because I sort of got the over €100 threshold then for free shipping on Monolith Shop. So the Ensley Rain and the Chucky palette, both of these have been gotten in the same order, and then we have the Skullz Roses palette, and this is a new indie brand for me. So this is from, I believe the brand is called Kaima Cosmetics, and they are UK-based indie brand, and this was sort of a grungy Valentine's palette that made its round on social media in the beginning of the year, and I was thinking that I'm gonna put it in sort of a backlog, so in case that I still want it maybe a couple of months after, because this had a very long pre-order time, and I thought that I'm not gonna wait like almost for 2 months for a palette that if I get it, but then they sort of got new stock, and then they had it in stock, and then I was like, okay, well, now they have it in stock, I might as well get it. But anyway, I think we will start actually with this one, and then let's go to the Chucky and Chucky and Glamlite, and then the Ensley Rain palettes. So this is how the Kaima Cosmetics Skullz Roses palette looks from inside. I will have to say that this has quite a strong, it's the kind of sort of industrial scent. I think if you have smelled it on some palettes, then this is then you know what I'm talking about, and it still hasn't because I do know that the scent goes away. I've had a couple of palettes before that have this sort of same kind of scent that it goes away, but it takes some time. I have done one look with this before filming this one, and you should be able to see the sort of shorts or Instagram reels on my channel before this video goes out. And so this isn't like I have had some feel for the shadows, but let's get to the swatching, and I'm actually going to first reach for makeup wipes because we will be needing those, and some paper. So let's get to the swatches, and now I'm thinking how I'm gonna position. I think that's a pretty good angle, and let's actually place you can clearly see that I haven't done this sort of swatch video before, and let's start first with the black shade, and it's called Raven. I'd say that swatched out quite well. As I said, I have tried one look with this, so I have a bit limited experience. I can't say about all the mattes, but at least the black one felt quite okay. I would also have to emphasize that swatches don't tell everything about the palette, so it could be that some palettes swatch really well and they don't perform on the eyes, and vice versa, that some can swatch really very poorly and then they look amazing in the eyes. Next I'm going to be swatching the sort of glittery purple shade, this one. So this is called Enchantment, and this I can immediately see from my fingers. This is quite chunky, and I think this reminds me quite a lot of this sort of how a lot of indie formulas used to be when first these sort of very shifty palettes got into the market. So with that one, I actually tried this on my eyes in the look that I'm wearing today, and it is definitely something I would not recommend if you have especially textured eye. Then next try Roses, so that's the red. Okay, that's decent. These sort of bright red mattes are usually a bit more difficult to formulate, but this one at least swatched quite well. And now then let's go with the Dazzle. This is also, yeah, I'd say these shimmers in general, they feel quite chunky, but look at that. That is pretty shifty. Well, this is actually not one of the shiftier shades, but that still has quite a lot of ink packed. Then let's go to Jinx, which is this. How would I describe this? It's it is, I'd say, more like a satin kind of shimmer rather than the super sparkly one. It does have a bit of a green, not like super strong, but it has this sort of golden green shift to it. Then let's go to Savage, which is the brown matte. This is something that I used as my crease color today. I'd say the performance of it on the eye was decent. I'd say that from the two mattes that I have tried from this in my like kind of look today, I'd say they are on the they aren't the like I'd say most like smoothest and easiest to blend, but they aren't also like horrible to work with. But I do think the shimmers are the sort of main show of this one. Let's go to Skullz, which is another sort of black shade with some sparkles in it. This actually, I would say, compared to the Jink shade, it has more sort of an, I'd say, maybe an holochrome effect would be the right word, because Jink shade, it is more like a basic, like, I'd say black with some gold sparkles mixed in, which kind of makes it look green, but then the Jink shade, oh sorry, the Skullz shade, it has more sort of a dimensional shimmers. And then let's go to Enamor, which is the sort of a dark purple here. Bring the palette closer so you will be able to see it. Okay, then let's go to the Rarish, which it's a more muted red than the rose. That actually also swatched pretty well, so I'm at least happy. Then Charm, this is obviously one of those chunky shades again, so as you can probably see, so as I said, this isn't definitely a palette that I would recommend for very textured eyes, but it is beautiful. So the Charm, I'd say it has a bit of a pinkish shift, and then to Cryptic, which is another matte brown. I'd say this is more like a camel matte, is I think the term I would use from this one. Let's go to the chrome and we will see if my hand is gonna be enough or are we gonna have to like resort to. Okay, this has a quite, and this I think is a very shifty, and I do like that this is actually like quite smooth compared to the other chunkier shimmers. And let's next go to the last row. So I think this might be the best position. So this is Trance is this one, and this again feels it's very chunky. I have to be very careful, however it is quite impactful. Then there's Allure. This is the second matte that I have used on my eyes, and I think we might have to actually do so that we will use that. And that's not the best swatch ever, but you are able to sort of see that. So this is what I would call a wine red, and now I'm gonna need one more time wipes, and then we will have the last of the shades. So there is only like two more. This is my whole arm. Yeah. So next we're gonna go to the Sorcery, which is this shade over here, and this is something that I used in my sort of corner of my eyes. I'm trying to see where do I have space. So that is quite and I would say deep shade, and then the last one is this sort of the Crowned, I think is the shade called, and I'm gonna move this is I think more of a blending out shade, so I don't think it's that visible, even though I have quite a fair skin tone. Let's now put the palette away and see that if I can get my whole can we get my whole arm? Yeah. So I think now you can kind of see the whole palette swatched out. Yeah, I say from like now trying this palette like one time and now swatching it, so most of the shimmers here are quite chunky, so as I said, someone with a textured lids buyer beware. The mattes, as I said, I have only like tried two mattes in my eyes. They did swatch all quite well, even from the colors that I thought would be more difficult for, like, for example, the reds that are here, but the two mattes that I tried in my eyes today, I did like make the note that they are like okay mattes, but not the most blendable ones that I have ever worked with. But I'm gonna actually take a photo of the swatches, and then we will move to the next palette, and I think we will be swatching the Chucky Glamlite and Chucky palette next. So, next one. This was a bit of a surprise purchase for me. As I said, this was something that I mainly got to sort of get over the free shipping threshold, and the Monolith shop actually, which is an European stockist for most of the, like, for example, overseas indie brands, they actually had this bit of a discount, and I'm not exactly a fan of the theme of the palette. However, I did, when I actually sort of watched a couple of reviews of this, even though it is a bit grey leaning, there's actually quite a lot of these sort of mauvish, dark reddish pinky tones in this one, which I think will make this actually a palette that I do prefer, and it's actually more like cool toned leaning. I have never actually tried Glamlite, and so especially with this one, I'd say that I will like see how I like the swatches, but I will not make any judgment how it will perform on my eyes because I haven't really tried the brand previously. But let's now start with the swatches, and palette placement is very, I think we... So let's first start with another matte black. So this is the Free Hugs palette, and I'm gonna say we're on frame. Yeah, it feels... Oh, sorry, the camera. I'd say it's a good start. Then there's the sort of like an metallic red called Charles Ray. I'm not fan because I'm not a fan of these like horror movies, so I don't know the reference these have, and this is the sort of reddish. Ooh, that's actually interesting. It's actually like more brown when you... It sort of turns into rusty brown even though it looks like red on the pan. Then there's the sort of... I don't know how I would describe it. It's sort of a cool toned brown shade called Let's Be Friends. And that is bit... That's odd. I feel that the black actually swatched better. This feels a bit hard. Hard pressed, but like I said, not making any judgment. It just sort of looks like a, I think, matte that has some shimmers in it, so it's called He's Back. And let's see. Okay, so we're having a bit of traffic in and out of our apartment, so that's why this is a bit slow. But anyway, this was the shade He's Back, and I'm not too sure, considering that there's actually a matte black here, that how relevant is it having two of these, because yeah, it has kind of an like bit of reddish sparkle, but I think that especially when you apply this shade to the eye, it will look quite similar like that with the matte black. But then we go to the next one, so Your Pain since 1980. And this is a metallic. Yeah, I'd say that's actually quite nice of a metallic black shimmer. And then let's go to the next row, so Issue 666. And this is a purple leaning shimmer, and let's go to... Yeah, so it's I think quite of an, I'd say like basic purple shimmer that has a black base to it. Then there's the second matte shade, so I Like to Be Hugged, and there's the sort of an embossing in it. So I'd say this is actually more purple leaning, yeah. So a very dark purple kind of brown, and now let's get my fingers clean so we can continue. Then let's go to the dark sort of wine red shade, so Play Pace. So it's kind of a grapefruit, I'd say, is a correct color that I would describe this. And then there's the next shimmer, it's Showtime. It's kind of similar to the shimmer shade issue 666. It's kind of lighter, but they do look. I think once we might get those to the eyes, they will look very similar. And then there's another sort of dark red shade. So the last row. So first one is this bright silver called Wanna Play. This feels actually a bit harder pressed compared to the other like shimmer shades so far. Then there's the sort of lightish brown Good Guys. Yeah, this is actually a bit interesting because it has actually a bit of a greenish undertone to it, so it's something different compared to, I'd say, the undertones the palette has. Then we have another black, and now I'm not sure did we truly need like 3 black shades. So this one, it's time to play. Yeah, I'm a bit questioning the choice of having. I think we would have like 1 black shade would have been enough because those truly look very similar on the eyes. Okay, yes, I have another interruption, but anyway, so as I was saying that it's time to play shade, I really don't think like 3 blacks that I know that those will all like look very samey in the eyes, so those I think the 2 others could have been used some other shades, but anyway. Then let's go to the second last shade which is called Chucky and Thief Forever, and it's a sort of a darker silver, a gunmetal shade, and that looks actually quite impactful. And then for the last sort of brownish shade, so that's called Scarier Than Ever. And this is actually, I think, one of the few like, it's quite of a warm leaning brown, I think, compared to the other shades. And hey, we actually fit everything, I think, in one arm. So this is how the sort of shades now look all swatched. I'd say like first impressions, I think the mattes all felt pretty good. Some of them were a bit harder pressed. Like I said, I would have like, this doesn't need like three blacks, but I do think, and there are a couple of shimmers that look a bit samey, but I will be excited to try this on my eyes during the next 2 weeks, so I can then give my conclusion how I feel about the Glamlite formula. But again, just like with the previous palette, I will take a daylight picture with my phone of this hand swatches, and then we will move to the last one, which is the Cold Moon palette from Ensley Rain. So the last one, I think this is probably something that's quite exciting for all of you. I have done one look with this one, and I know that the shorts and Instagram reels that's already like out on my channels, and so far I'd say that one time I've tried this, I have been very impressed how this performs on the eyes, but I still haven't I have only tried a couple of shades. With this one, I think I will have to make the sort of swatch strips a bit shorter to fit sort of all the colors in my arm, and we will have to see how the placing of the palette will go, because this is quite of a big palette. But let's first start from this corner. So Storm is Fairy is this one. It's a bluish silver sparkle, and we'll start from there. And oh yeah, it's not even visible. So that's how it looks like. Sorry, there's a bit staining from the 2 other palettes, and that I'd say it's a very pretty blue to silver shifting shade. Then let's go to Rebirth, which is I'd say quite traditional grayish. Yeah, I'd say this is a true like a dark gray, and that's how the shade looks like. Then let's go to this one. So I can't pronounce this one. This is very difficult, but this looks quite a traditional. Yeah, so this one I don't think it has any special shift. This is a true like traditional like say pure silver shade. So the next one is this one. So this is sort of beigey gray called Winter Solace, and let's not get the chunk. Oh, this is actually has some. It is actually also has a bit of a green on the base of it, so it is actually a bit more interesting swatched out than it looked in the pan. Then let's go to the next shimmer shade, which is called Borealis. So this is a very shimmery, there's sort of a pink to purple shift in this one. And very, very beautiful. Then let's go to Cold Moon, which is another sort of a grayish looking shade. And yeah, that's I think more of blue. It's almost like a blue-based matte shade. I'm gonna see if I will be able to fit this. So this shade over here, which is called Snow Crystal, and this looks that's a very shifty shade. Okay, then let's go to the next sort of row. So the Mother's Night, another, I'd say more of a darker brownish shade. Something that I was pretty happy about with this palette is that they now have like a 50-50 matte to shimmer ratio, which is something that I prefer. Wolf's Moon, so this looks like to be another silver shade, and this too I don't think has a... I'd say this is more sparkly than the other silver shade that I swatched earlier, because that one is a bit more muted, so this one has a bit more oomph to it compared to the other one. Now let's go to some paper, and next one is this one. So this is called Transformation, and it's a more brown. Let's see, is it more of a... Yeah, I think this is true like a grayish brown, I think is the right description of this one. Then let's go to this one. So this is called Chest Corn, and this looks also quite shifty. There's like green, and I think there's a bit of pink there. Yeah, so this is, I'd say, definitely one of those like green pinkish shifty shades. The camera probably won't pick up all the shifts, but very beautiful. Then next one is Catmint. So this is the sort of more mauvish. Yeah, that's a true, like I'd say, mauvish purple shade. And let's now... next let's go to... Yeah, it's visible, so the saturation shade over here. And I think this might be... Is this one of the holochromes? Because it has quite a lot. This is looking, I think, a bit similar, I'd say, at least from my point of view. So this shade is looking, I think, a bit similar with this one, but nevertheless it is a quite pretty shade. Then Mau, so this is I'd say quite of a basic, yeah, I'd say this is more of a basic blending out shade. I don't think that's that visible because it is almost the same color as my skin. And then to the last shade. So first this one, this pink shade, this is called Forbidding, and this is very, yeah, I think that's gonna probably be like one of my favorite shades from this palette, because it's a pink shimmer. Then let's go to the next one, Garment. So this is quite of an, I'd say basic like chocolate brown shade. Yeah, and nothing ordinary, like super inordinary about this one. Next one is this one. So this is Snow Fairies. This is quite of another very beautiful shade. I'm actually gonna put it somewhere here. Is it a bit close to the pink one? I think they have a bit of a different shift to them, but I do think that these two especially could end up looking pretty similar depending on the base you lay them on. Next one is then this one. So this is more sort of another mauvish brown. Yeah, those two are actually also quite close. I mean, this I'd say is a bit more like, it's I think a bit lighter, but it looks quite similar to the other mauvish shade we have in the palette. So there are, I'd say we're beginning to see that there might be a few repeat, sort of quite similar, not repeat shades in the palette. Next is Aurora, and this is very flaky. I'm gonna be very... This like looks very amazing, but it's very... this again would probably one of those shades I would not recommend if you have very textured textured eyelids, but the shade is nonetheless very, very beautiful. Then the last two. So this is Winter Rose, and this is a I'd say this is like very traditional, like more of an blushed rose, I think would be the term I would use for that shade. And then the Snowdrop, which is the last shade in the corner, and this is again very flaky. And this is actually, I'd say, more of a green shifting. Yeah, so those are all the shades, and I'm actually gonna see if I can get my whole arm. So this is how they look like. Like altogether, I'd say like very beautiful. There are like, again, just like I'd say with the like previous palettes, there are some shades that I'm a bit questioning that should they be in the same palette, and especially with the Cold Moon because it's quite a big palette, but this is a very like, I'd say, probably going to be one of my favorite color stories of the year. Now, just like with previous palettes, I will be taking a photo of this one, and then we will sort of go with the, end this with an outro. Okay, so thanks for sort of certainly watching and sticking by if you have watched this to the end. There were some logistical issues, but we managed to get through. I'd say definitely like from the based on swatches, certainly like if you're someone who has a bit of an, I'd say like texture on their lids or something else, then the Chucky palette just based on swatches might be the best, because these are more, I'd say, like satin-like and smoother shimmers, and I do know that also Glamlite is like, they are quite like well priced compared to some other indie brands, so these are also like Glamlite palettes in general aren't also like from the most expensive end, but as I said, because I haven't tried their formula yet, so I will have to see how I will like this on my eyes, but like based on swatches so far, no complaints. Then the sort of two, I'd say like, so I'd say that from an excitement point, the Kaima Cosmetics and the Cold Moon palette have been some that I've been like waiting for the most to try, but these I'd say definitely do have the more like chunkier indie shimmers that we have more used to seeing. So with this one, I would first consider that what kind of lid type do you have, because these especially, I do know that at least the other Ensley Rain palette, which is the Harvest Moon that I have tried, with that one I didn't feel that there were creasing issues, even though some of the shimmers were a bit chunkier, but I'd say that with the Kaima one, some of these do feel like those kind of like the chunky shades feel like that they will probably crease if you have a very, very long daytime, because I don't think the formula is as sophisticated as the Cold Moon's formula is one. And this formula is something that I do know that you can actually apply it quite well with a brush. With the Kaima one, the jury is still out there on that, because at least in the one shorts that I have done, I have only used my fingers. But yeah, thank you for sticking by, and if you want to see more videos from me, then subscribe to the channel, like this video, and certainly comment down below what have been sort of your favorite indie palettes that you have been trying out lately. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope I will be seeing you in another video soon. Bye bye!